How do you find a reason to keep going when you've lost everything? It's one of the toughest questions we can ask. Today, we're going to look for an answer inside one of the most powerful books ever written, Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. Okay, this quote right here, it's pretty much the key to the entire book. Viktor Frankl saw this idea lived out in the concentration camps. The big takeaway was that if you have a why, a real purpose, you can endure almost any how, any hardship imaginable. This single thought is the bedrock of everything he learned.
So where does all this come from? Well, it's from this incredible book. Frankl was a psychiatrist, and he basically poured his entire experience onto the page in just 9 feverish days after he was liberated. And what came out wasn't just a story of survival. It was a psychological roadmap for how the human spirit can find meaning even in the worst conditions you can possibly imagine.
Now, to really get what Frankl is talking about with his search for meaning, you first have to understand the world he was thrown into, a world specifically designed to destroy meaning. From the very moment prisoners arrived, a brutal process of dehumanization kicked in.
He wasn't Dr. Viktor Frankl anymore. He was this. Prisoner 119104. Just a number, tattooed on his skin. This was the first step in a systematic plan to erase a person's entire life, their identity, and reduce them to nothing more than an object.
Right when they got to Auschwitz, they faced what was called the first selection. An SS officer would just casually point his finger, left or right. Frankl says none of them had any idea what this simple gesture meant. Pointing to the right meant you were fit for work. Pointing to the left, which happened to about 90% of the people he arrived with, meant you were headed straight to the gas chambers. Life or death decided in a split second.
Frankl made a desperate attempt to save his life's work, a scientific manuscript he had hidden in his coat. He tried to explain to another prisoner what it was, how important it was, and the response he got was just a single crude word: shit. In that instant, Frankl got it. His past, his achievements, his identity, none of it mattered anymore. He had to erase his entire former life just to survive the next moment.
But here's where it gets fascinating. Frankl, the psychiatrist, couldn't turn off his brain. He started observing himself and the other prisoners, and he saw a very clear psychological journey that nearly everyone took. Let's dig into the first 2 stages. So first up was shock. When prisoners first arrived, they clung to what Frankl called a delusion of reprieve, this wild hope that things couldn't possibly be that bad that they'd be saved at the last minute. Of course, that hope was quickly crushed, and it gave way to the second phase: apathy. This was like a necessary emotional death. You had to shut down, to numb your feelings, just to build a protective shell around yourself to withstand the daily horrors.
How do you even explain that state of mind? It seems impossible, right? Frankl actually turned to this quote from Dostoevsky to try and describe it. A man can get used to anything. He saw it happen every single day. It was a terrible, soul-crushing way to adapt. But it was adaptation.
I mean, to really understand this apathy, listen to this. Frankl describes watching another prisoner drag a corpse away, the head just bumping down the stone steps, all while he was calmly eating his daily soup. The normal human reactions, disgust, horror, pity, they were just gone. They had to be, just to survive. But, and this is a huge but, it's right here, in this absolute bottomless pit of suffering, that Frankl makes his most profound discovery. He realizes there is one thing, one single thing, that the Nazis could never, ever take from him. This, right here, is the very heart of this book. They could take your home, your family, your name, even your life. But the one thing they could never touch was what Frankl called the last of the human freedoms: your ability to choose your own attitude, to choose how you would respond. That inner world was, and always is, yours alone. And look, this wasn't just some abstract philosophical idea. Frankl saw proof of it with his own eyes. He saw men who had absolutely nothing walking through the huts to comfort others, even giving away their last precious piece of bread. These small acts were proof that who you were wasn't just a product of the camp. It was the result of an inner decision. This just completely flips the script on what it means to suffer, doesn't it? The point wasn't to avoid suffering. That was impossible. The goal was to choose how you bear it. Frankl realized that facing suffering with dignity, with purpose, was a genuine achievement. It meant that even in total despair, your life could still have meaning. Okay, so if we all have this inner freedom, how do we actually use it to find meaning in our lives? This is where Frankl's work gets really practical.
He gives us a clear framework, outlining 3 main paths to discovering a sense of purpose.
He basically broke it down into 3 sources. First, you can find meaning in work, by creating something or achieving a goal. Second, you can find it in love, by caring deeply for another person. And third, the one that was always available, even in the camps, was finding meaning in courage, in the attitude you choose to take when you're facing suffering you simply can't escape.
To really show the power of love, Frankl tells this absolutely stunning personal story. He was stumbling on a forced march in the freezing cold, near collapse, and he started to think intensely about his wife. And in that moment, a powerful truth hit him, that the ultimate goal we can aspire to is love.
And get this is the incredible part. At that moment, he didn't even know if his wife was still alive. It didn't matter. The love itself, the memory, the internal feeling was enough to bring him a sense of bliss. It was proof that our inner world can sustain us even when the outside world is completely falling apart.
So this all leads to one final, really important idea Frankl wrestles with. This tension between fate, the things we can't change, and our personal responsibility to create meaning anyway.
He explores this idea with a really cool contrast. On one side, you have the old story about the servant who tries to run from death, only to run right to the city where death was waiting for him. The lesson being you can't escape your fate. But Frankl puts that next to his own decision, when he had a chance to escape but chose to stay with his patients. See the difference? You may not control the outcome, but you can always control your choice and find peace by living up to your own values.
And you know, this sense of responsibility had guided him even before the war. He actually got a visa to America, a ticket to safety. But he was torn up about leaving his elderly parents behind to face the Nazis. While he was agonizing over it, he found a piece of marble from a destroyed synagogue with this one commandment on it. To him, that was a sign. He stayed. He let the visa expire, choosing his responsibility to his parents over his own safety.
And that really brings us to the ultimate lesson of the book. The kind of person you became in the camp wasn't just because of the camp. It was the result of an inner decision. It means that no matter where you are or what you're going through, you are never just a product of your circumstances. In the end, who you become is always up to you.
So Frankl's book isn't just a history lesson, it's really a challenge to every single one of us. He says we have the question all wrong. We shouldn't be asking what we expect from life. Instead, we need to ask, what does life expect from us? So think about it. What is your work to do? Who is there for you to love? And what suffering must you face with courage? At the end of the day, what gives your life meaning?